Create Art Podcast. Project NaPoWriMo, otherwise known as National Poetry Writing Month. Hello friends, this is Timothy Chemo Bryan, your head instigator for Create Art Podcast, where I bring my 20 plus years of experience in the arts and education world to help you tame your inner critic and create more than you consume. So this month is National Poetry Writing Month. Happens every April. And National Poetry Writing Month is known as NaPoWriMo, and it's a creative writing project. And what they do is they give you prompts. If you go to the NaPoWriMo website at NaPoWriMo.net, and they'll give you 30 prompts for the 30 days in April. Now, on the website, you can also interact with other people. This year is going to be different from the previous years that I've done this project. This year, I'm going to be writing poetry throughout the year, and I am following a different prompt than the one that the National Poetry Writing Month folks do. Now, I've been doing poetry since 1988. I know for a lot of people here, they're like, whoa, the 1900s. But I've been doing it for a long time. I've been writing poetry for a long time and performing my poetry. So this year, like I said, I'm going to be writing all throughout the year. And the blog that I'm using is called Think Written. And the links for that will be in the show notes. I'm also going to be performing these works at Katura Coffee House here in Fredericksburg, Virginia on their Friday night Snaps open mic poetry reading. You'll have a link for that again in the show notes. And a lot of people, they ask me, hey, Tim, why do you do this to yourself every year? And my answer to that is, if I'm going to ask you to be, taming your inner critic and creating things, then I need to be doing it too, right alongside you. So that's why this year I'm doing it a little bit different, but I will be interacting with the poets there on the NaPoWriMo site. And we'll see how this goes. I'm pretty excited to be doing it this way. So today's prompt is entitled Cafeteria. And the prompt is create a poem inspired by the people who might be eating lunch in a cafeteria at school or a hospital. This one's entitled Chicken Enchilada. I was back in Illinois, not my hometown or the city I adopted, but a small town dependent on the base. I had just puddle jumped from St. Louis. When in processing was done and I had raised my hand when asked whom was a musician, I was whisked away to a special squadron. A small group of us who raised our hands stood in the day room of the squadron. We were given rooms and a tour of our new temporary home. We were told to drop off our luggage and return later this afternoon, so we all silently went to our rooms. I knew at that time to pack lightly, to tread lightly on this earth, and as I opened the door to my new home, my new roommate was not there. Heading back down to the dining facility, I wanted to have a few moments of solitude. I'd just spent 6 weeks living with 50 other soon-to-be men, and my sociability jar had been exhausted. Working my way through the food line, looking over my shoulder, waiting for a training instructor to slip in behind me and scare the shit out of me, my head was on a swivel. I grabbed the bare essentials for lunch, not wanting to draw attention to myself. I crawled into an empty booth, breathed deeply, and went to work on the food. I tasted my food. It had been weeks of rushing to shove groceries down my throat, but now I had nowhere to be, no one to answer to for a few minutes. I savored each bite. It was at that time I was overcome with a feeling of certitude. I felt that the decision was right. It had been one of the first times I had felt this way, and the food cemented my feeling. I'm not sure how long I sat in that booth. Others came and went without much fanfare, and my comrades in basic training found me, and we all sat quietly, deep in thought, living like the kings we told ourselves we were. All right, so that was my poem for this day for National Poetry Writing Month. I hope you enjoyed it. You can go right to the website, createartpodcast.com, and you can go ahead and comment right there in the comment section if you like. Now, something I'd like to ask you is, if you enjoyed it, shoot me an email. Timothy@createartpodcast.com. I want to hear about your journey, and I want to hear about what you're working on. And if you'd like to be on the show, or would like to discuss a topic that's giving you trouble, well then go ahead and email me. Let's start that conversation. I also want to let you know about another podcast that I do, and that one is called Find a Podcast About, and that's where I help you find your next binge-worthy podcast and outsmart that algorithm. You can find that podcast at findapodcastabout.xyz. Last thing I'd like to say here is, if you found value in the show, let me know. Pass it on to a friend. If you have ideas on what I could do better to make this a 5-star podcast, I want to hear about those too. I want to be helping you with your art, to be bold with your art, as I do it right beside you. I'll see you next time.